represented, VEC, Array, and American Internet. We have proposals of what VEC wants to do, and we have this big map here, got all the areas mapped out that they're proposing. They broke it out, I believe you said, into 3 different grant sections.
For the grant session, if you received your email, it's going to be 19 total, 19 zones.
Right, but you broke them out to 3 different grants, or is it going to be more than that?
I think it's going to be the 19 different zones he'll apply for in that way, the way it's broken up there.
So you can apply for 19 different areas individually?
It's my understanding, yes.
This requested match, would that be prorated amongst all the different areas?
That would be 10% not exceeded, that proposed match.
What I'm asking is like in the Benton office area, 1.92 million would be to cover it. So what our match would be, if that was the only one awarded, would it be 10%?
It would only be 10% of that amount, yes. Not, and then your total not to exceed that $1,174,669.65. If y'all don't have that in front of you, I can give you that.
It looked like on the thing you sent out that it was 3 different sections: Benton office, Reliance Rock, and McCoy section. No, you have these 3 separate out.
Sections and then divided up into those 19.
I didn't know if you were to write individual grants for each one, or if it was going to be section grants.
My understanding, Dave, is going to write them for each one.
Okay.
One million,
It's 1 million. $1,174,665 or $669.65. Not to exceed that. So VEC will write the narrative to explain taking 10% from Pope for the total amount of $3.4 million. Would essentially take all the ARP money, so VEC would be willing to cover the difference that was given, and the 10% to allow Pope the ability to finance other infrastructure.
From what I read in the grant, and I sat through their seminar, any company can apply for these grants. And it's very stringent requirements on the government part on what the company's got to be capable of doing. And any company that passes and is awarded that grant is worthy of it.
Correct.
So any of these 3 companies here tonight can apply for these grants.
now, according to the Tennessee,
I can't speak to what these other companies can, but I mean, obviously, if they meet the criteria, obviously they can.
Yes, if they meet the criteria, they'll be thrown out if they don't.
Yes.
And I questioned you on this whole entire thing, the $34,510,000. What is the probability that grant would come through the best guess?
And the best guess that I gave you from all
66%.
66%, best guess.
Personally, I think it's high. But do they get the whole thing?
That's a guess, and like I said, that's an
Yes.
educated guess.
Yes.
That, like I said, the $20 million mark is what David felt like. I think around 80% chance of getting. It's just a guess.
In your entire VEC area, y'all are putting out for like 125 million?
Yes. Y'all should have a spreadsheet for that. I don't have that one right in front of me, but
I don't have it with me.
I think he totals over $100 million in our service area from the Georgia line, which is Polk County, all the way to Kentucky.
How many counties is that covering?
I think this one's going to involve 7.
7?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
Here's where I question things. There's 95 counties in the state. And we're asking for 7 counties to get 125 million out of 400 million. which is we're wanting to put over 25%, about 25% of the entire state money into just these 7 counties. That's why I think 66% is high, because we've got the rest of the state bidding on stuff too. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense for us not to go after
Oh, no, I'm
this
saying
as a
go after
co-op,
it.
you know,
Go
for
after
that.
everything we can.
We feel obligated as a cooperative. That's the largest thing or request that we hear from our membership. Anybody that's a member of the cooperative, how can you help us get broadband?
Right.
And that's something that the membership has applied essentially that question to our board and leadership. And that's why we're pursuing that, because that's what our members are asking us to pursue in the areas that we cover. Obviously, there are a lot of other places that need the money. At the same time, I see a huge need in these rural areas.
I do too.
That's why the co-op was founded, for rural electrification. I think this is the next step for the future, to get it out there to places that are probably not advantageous for a for-profit to get without some assistance.
For us to get it, we are showing a lot of unserviced and underserviced
Correct.
area, which is a draw for the grantor to issue the money to us.
Correct.
Can I ask you about this one little section on the map right here?
Yes, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
look at it.
Maybe as well. I just wanna know why this one little area is excluded.
I don't have an answer for that.
Y'all don't like Ken Bishop?
No, no.
I know why it is. That's got a Cleveland address. On that side of the highway,
Yeah, that's
because everybody's complained about it before, but having a Cleveland address.
All right.
But doesn't DEC service that?
Mhm.
Because
it
all
might be
this is
on-
Bradley
might be on the
County is here,
Cleveland
this is
side.
Bradley here, this is Bradley here, but they're covered.
It may be covered under the Bradley County grant.
I don't know whether it's on the grant side of things for that, or if they consider this area served with that. I think it's along Highway 411, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken, in that area. I know there's a large AT&T bed.
It
I
has
cannot,
AT&T and it has
I cannot
Comcast
speak to what
both.
speed that they have there, but that's the only thing that I know.
And how were y'all able to cover all of this when like Comcast is all through here?
Based on the speeds in the map. That's what our engineering has looked at when we met with you last time. Obviously, we were just looking at the Greasy Creek and Reliance area. And since it was revised for the speeds, all those other areas showed to be grant eligible.
Today, on the grant, it said that it, had to be 100, blended. I can't remember the exact word.
100 by 20.
It's
Yeah.
100 by 20, but then it had to be synchronized 100 by 100, or eligible to go up to that to be.
And those were
for that
minimum
grant.
speeds.
Yes, that's minimum speeds. And it was Emily with Tennessee Economic Community Development Broadband Division.
Cliff, in my opinion, if y'all could do all of this for the 1.174 million with fiber, I'm all for it. I don't think it can be done. One
But
thing,
it's not one, it's not that, y'all are kind of filling in on our 10% part with 1.1.
Correct.
right,
It's
Correct.
not really.
It's a
1.1,
$34 million
Yeah,
project.
3.4 is.
Yeah,
I know, but I'm talking about the cost to the county.
They're willing to
Our
take
part.
up the slack on us.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're gonna make up, our leadership, given the county obviously is split and where the money has
Well,
it.
the light bill, I guess you can.
Well, I mean, we can do that because we're a big corporation and they get government grants, right? I mean.
But
that's
y'all-
We are, the only way that we are doing this is through grant money. Obviously, we're not gonna be spending the full amount, you know, for this.
Oh,
We
I
can't
know
afford that. Nor can the county,
Right.
obviously, and that's why that's what our membership is asking for, to help provide broadband. And this is what we do primarily. We are in the rural areas from the Georgia line to the Kentucky border.
Well, I have a question for you.
But we are doing this in other places where grants were eligible. We've done it in Hamilton County, we've done it in Bradley County, we've done it in Meigs County, and we continue to do that where we can help and where it's grant eligible. This money has been put to that. We've not just started doing this, we've been doing this. This is the first grant that Polk County has been ready for, I say ready for, that it's available for, that it's catered to.
Well, we opened this up when we done the broadband initiative and adopted it. That was a door opener to some grants on broadband.
The Hopewell community, the Georgetown community that's out of the Cleveland service area, which is Polk, Hamilton, and Bradley, it's done. I can take you and show you those locations.
I believe it.
Yeah.
No problem there. Question for the web committee, what would be wrong with us dedicating X amount of dollars to whomever gets the grants? Not named any specific individual company, because if they all have to apply, they all have to go through the process, they all have to be approved by the state. And whichever one, or ones, it might be, you might win a section and somebody else might win another section, I don't know. But can we set aside an amount to be awarded once the grant is awarded to whomever receives the grants? And if it's VEC the only one that qualifies for it, then VEC gets it. If Purvey's the only one that qualifies for it, Purvey gets it. Or if a mixture of all three of them for different areas. But rather than locking ourselves into one specific.
I just wondered, and I'm not on this committee, but I got a question. I just wondered if VEC took in mind they're gonna get it all when they agreed to make their contribution to the grant.
They would not have presented this if they weren't prepared to do it all. Is it heavy lifting? Is it a lot of work? Absolutely.
So they might not have been willing to pitch in as much if they didn't know the opportunity was there in the whole
For the
county to
whole thing.
recoup their money.
But I don't believe they'll ever get the whole thing.
I do.
So you think
Pretty
that-
high.
you think the state's gonna give
I understand what you mean.
I do because they're co-op, I mean, you guys are co-ops, right?
But there's co-ops all over the state doing the same thing.
But they also have federal funding and stuff like that. If Tri-State had it, would I think Tri-State would do it more than ETC? Yes, I would, because they're co-ops. I think that would be our best bet because they have the backing.
If they fill out the paperwork for the grant, if you qualify for this grant, you've got the backing for it. It is a very stringent grant. You have to have the resources, you have to have the money backing, you have to have everything. And it's all reimbursed after it's done. It's not given up front. Is that correct, Aaron?
I think it all has to be done by that
It's gotta be done.
2026, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
The state gives 3 years.
Yeah, have a timeline to do that, you're correct. Yeah, and we worked on the deadline for the other grants as well, criteria for those.
Right, that's on their projected. Well, I guess my question is, if we put up, $1,174,000, can we do it that way? Can we pledge it that way, the way this, is designed? Because we do, apparently, and Mr. G, I know you said that there's another way of doing it, but I was told today there was no way around the RFP.
There is if you do it this way. You've got multiple bidders bidding out
Yes.
for the grant, and we can award it to the grant if there are multiple bidders.
The lady from the Department of Economic Development today said that was no longer doable.
I have a question for you.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
I'm
And that's
really
what I was
good
trying-
friends with
that's why I wouldn't
our
have
Tri-State
that
up
part.
here, which is our co-op. If someone else was to come in, do you guys have to go through like the legislation to do attachments to y'all's polls?
Yeah, there are poll attachments, yes.
So you would have to have a new agreement, correct?
Yes.
Which would take a very long time to.
Uh,
We're going through that right now with ours, with the internet that come here, because they're out of the state of Georgia. So it has to go through the Georgia legislation in order for us to, and their attorneys and stuff, I mean, it's just, it's gonna take a while.
But you are correct, there are poll attach agreements exist, and I can't speak for Georgia just because we don't have any service there, but for AT&T, Charter, and Comcast, an agreement that's mutually agreed on,
But
yeah.
if you guys did your own,
There's no
you
poll
already
attachment, yeah, that's correct.
You know, like Samantha said, I know Zach,
Well,
Comcast or Charter.
in the same thing, all three of
They
these companies
contacted
can
me back
do the RFP.
They're ready to go.
Yeah.
But
And those,
Tri-State EMC will not go through and give them.
and those things are necessary with the car wreck, of who owns the pole, those have to be worked out, of who's gonna fix what and where, and safety for the spacing.
Yeah, cause I
That's
talked
the
to
hardest
Brendan
thing
the
to
other day when, after our other meeting that we had here, and I said, you know, I was like, ETC already has it, I was like, what's the, but they have to have a new agreement and everything, and it has to go through, cause, TVA actually owns their,
I heard that.
anyway, so they have to have a new attachment, so with you guys doing it anyway, it would
That's correct.
Lewis,
save time,
the
but
guy next to the executive.
actually save money too.
Said he wasn't a part.
Is that because you're attaching to your own pole?
Yes, that's correct.
That's not common.
Yeah, it's a big ordeal getting new attachment
Getting
agreements,
pole rides.
because the last ones that we had was 2015.
I was talking to AT&T today, they said it'd be at least 4.5 to 5 years before they would be able to do any kind of fiber stuff.
They were already on.
Just like a lot.
So we're gonna say, aside this money for whoever gets the
Yeah.
But it's exciting, it's good to get this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I do not believe it, you know.
Especially when you're being able to do it with grant money to help another privilege that's,
And then if they don't,
what do you do over at Twin Cities?
I serve as the area manager,
Okay.
Hope Bradley,
Very cool. How long you been there?
well over 20 years.
that's not what I'm saying.
I've been in the
If they don't
business
go,
for, I guess,
if the state says, we're not gonna give this much money to Polk County, we're gonna give them.
Oh. So what I was proposing, do you know what I was
They were
proposing?
coming.
Yes, the wireless.
The fixed wireless, and, you know, it's, it's just the easiest way to get broadband quickly. And, I don't know, maybe you and I have lunch or something, sit down, I'm not late, not everybody knows that. But maybe we could put something in place. And maybe you guys can.
But those things are coming to us. Correct. Actually, maybe next year.
I mean, it's just, it's
I'm just telling you what you all actually.
I mean, I'm talking to the counties right now, and my next one is Washington. I'm gonna be honest with you, after getting all these maps, you go to the privilege area and the privilege area, and use the popping grant.
Cover everything.
And so,
What's not coming?
I just wanna help out.
And we,
You know,
But as far as the grant, they distribute the money
I'm not
after,
gonna,
oh yeah, you can't distribute till after.
in these areas,
they can do
you can
drawings
build
and stuff.
a, foundation, a good network, especially if you have a backhaul network.
Entire amount
So
of.
we're gonna bring 100
I believe even then, there's 15%.
Yeah, we got it up here, so.
Inspectors.
I don't know, maybe that's something y'all can take over for a period of time, and y'all can, I don't, I'm just trying to go through different drawings, we can have it for the, work together, telecom space, all that, it's incestuous, you know what I mean, everybody uses
They are
the same
sound
stuff.
fiscally, and they're
Are y'all
able,
gonna,
they've
y'all
got to
gonna give
prove
the
every
service
step.
as well, you gotta have.
Twin Lakes, Twin Lakes.
They have to have
What's
it
y'all,
on grant.
are y'all gonna partner in that?
That's why they
in that,
fight
or
for
we're
grants.
gonna-
Twin Lakes, it's the cooperative in Twin
I don't
Lakes.
No,
know.
I'm talking about.
I just want to be interested, how does the law work over there?
Right.
Obviously, the decisions are made for all board,
This is right.
in each one. And, essentially,
Surely goes over
are you talking about fiber portion?
No, I just really had a general business scenario, and because, you know, when they want to come in, officers, and you get fiber.
They have to prove.
I may put in a scenario where we can actually have this up in 120 days and provide search. But
They have what?
I want it to be have
If,
access.
if we got the grant, we would
They have to show
begin working on the trunk lines and
Oh,
bill
yeah.
that. And then as far as the sign-ups, they would sign up through Twin Lakes and then individual.
But I'm talking about it in between for the
The other
next
thing we
3
did
years.
is null and void.
There's a PR to get people, you know, some broadband to
It
begin
didn't
with
even,
for a while.
it didn't do it.
I mean, I don't know, I was just trying to help out.
So as far as.
But if you guys wanna go at it yourself, that's fine too. I don't
We
think
need to
that's
go
all covered up in there.
We need to rescind it because it did not go out.
At this point, I think they feel comfortable with what
It was
they
a violation of state law.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I've got two.
That's not acceptable.
I've had two friends married by a couple people in DC. And it's like crazy.
If they can't prove to the state, they can
Money,
increase.
fiber, but.
They're not gonna get rid of it. It's that simple. They have to have all the engineering specs and everything else, all three. All three companies will have to do the same proof that DEC does, showing they are able to do it, they have the financial backing to do it, they have the capability of doing it. Or they're not gonna get the grant. They have to have the engineering, just, all the stuff has to be done.
But what about the speed?
The speed has that's minimums on the speed.
No, I mean, as far as we're concerned though, we've got one that's, the 1 terabyte, we've got one that does.
100 gigs.
The grant, 2 terabyte. What about American Internet? What's
They
your
all
speed?
have to have
Same
the
stuff.
same minimum
I
speed.
can't compete with 100 by 100. My system won't do that.
Well, that's part of the requirement for the grant.
Right, I'm
I
not,
mean,
going-
it's
I'm
not,
not
it's
going
not,
after
now
the
wait,
grant.
exactly what she said, which it confused me. She said it was 120. And then she said it had to be
The
numerical
FCC,
to 100. And I said, okay, what are we talking about? She said, well, to apply, but you have to show that you will be able to hit 100 by 100.
the
And I was
FCC
like,
new ruling
okay.
is 100 by 20.
Right,
But
that's
the
not what
grant
she
is
said.
100 by 100.
right.
And that makes no, because she told me you could apply at 120. And then she said the 100 by 100. I said, well, which is it?
The 100 by 100 is for the grant.
The 100 by 20, they can apply for the grant, but they have to show that they go to so and so by so and so time of completion, according to her, which I was completely confused about. So that could, but that's with y'all and then. Okay,
I feel like it needs to be fiber.
I like fiber, I'm not gonna lie.
Hey guys, can I say something? I mean, I think we all love fiber. I mean, that's the way that you want it to be done. It's just gonna take a while to put the fiber in the ground, but by all means, if there's an opportunity to put fiber in the ground, please do. My solution was done to give people high-speed internet now. So in the next 3 to 5 years, they'll have an option to have internet. And it's, you know, I'm not sitting here beating up fiber because I support it 100%. But this is something that could be a solution that maybe we can all sit down and figure out that after 3.5 years or something like that, maybe VEC takes over a fixed wireless network and you guys have a really cool hybrid network.
DEC's not doing the internet though.
You know, at this point, they.
I'm just throwing information out. I'm just throwing spitballing stuff. I mean, and that's all we're trying to do is trying to help out. So, and now it's cool. There's more money to build more out with, and so yeah. I mean, we're here to help on our side, and I think we all are. So.
And since y'all cover this whole area, you're gonna put it to all the households in this area?
As we said before in the last meeting, this is based on the 7,488 metered locations. If you have an electric meter with VEC,
I got one and it runs fast.
it is going to, it's better than it not running. So, it's gonna go to the home if you want it. And like David mentioned before, there is a limit for what that's gonna take. I think 3, maybe 5 years, and that time will run out. But if you want it to your home, you can get it in that, if we're with the grant.
If John Hoyt has currently charter, you're gonna put thing to his house to get VEC.
If it is within that grant area that we get
I just
100.
wanted to make sure because before you couldn't cross lines with the,
But our position, it's not crossing lines, our position, we've only been able to go after where we're grant eligible at.
But
This shows-
anything that's in the flow of unserviced and underserviced, y'all can still service.
Yes, I mean, that's been the
even
game
if there's
changer
another
on the
provider.
speed in this area, what it shows. We are not, our position's not to be in competition with AT&T, Charter, Comcast, to try to run in and have 5 lines somewhere. If it's there, then it's there. But if it's allowed in that grant, we'll put it to the home.
Okay.
Part of the thing, and this goes back years ago, before the AT&T deal, and I know there was cherry picking and this and that, and everybody is, but you had to have the utility designation to run cable, and once somebody had it, you couldn't cross in. It's just like water or sewer. At that time, you couldn't cross in and provide anything but what they call dial-up network, which, because phone lines were already there. But that's all gone for now. You can have Charter and fiber optic in the same house, from what I understand now.
You know, we're not
That's
gonna
part of
go
the
on
AT&T.
Etowah Utilities system in the Delano area, Polk County, or tri-state system, anywhere it's
I know
within
you're in the
VEC.
VEC area. Are you gonna are they planning on prioritizing these 19 sections?
They're gonna apply for that as a whole.
Tonight?
I don't think that in the grant process, I've not seen the application that we're gonna say, this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3. I would imagine, and this is speculative on my part, areas with 0 internet are probably gonna get the top priority if we're
That's
scaling
what I was
it
gonna
down.
ask, because if you got downtown Benton that's got Charter all over it,
I think we-
versus Greasy Creek who has 0.
I think we all can agree that if you're looking at grants and how they would give those, I would imagine that they're looking at non-served areas as a higher priority. I would imagine that, but that's speculation on my part. And what you saw to begin with the first proposal, when we were under the guidelines without the speed being an issue, it was the Greasy Creek lines
Right.
considered the most.
So Harry, what you need is basically just a resolution of support, saying if we get the grant, y'all will reimburse us for that money. And
Yeah.
that's what Dewey's thinking about saying, just.
No,
No,
there's-
we don't have to pay it
If,
until.
if you don't get the grant, it's a moot point, it goes away. You
We still
don't,
have enough time to do something else with that money.
yeah.
On other,
We're not asking for you to sign a check over where it contingent upon the grant. And
The
that-
grant says that, so the grant says you can't ask for it up front.
Absolutely, and like I said, we're not, so. And that's, nor would I, nor would we expect that.
There's never been a grant process where the 10% match is mandated until the grant's awarded, that I ever remember. It's always
This,
been like
this
that.
one is more like, as they do it, they can draw down on it.
Yeah.
I think the intent for the grant is to see, number one, if the community wants it.
That's
Do
what-
you want it as a community for that to take place? And like I said,
The grant doesn't even require it to come from the county. If our banks and businesses got together and wanted to make up the 10%, my understanding is they would accept that as the home defense.
community support or
Yeah.
community buying.
Greg, you got a checkbook?
They take a check.
We don't even need a check, we just need a resolution.
You agree?
Brooks just got a billion and have,
Well, you'll
you
get-
got
You just hold
change.
it, we're just-
Yeah.
The pledge.
And so you just need to reach out, well, we can't, the RFP, we still have to do the RFP according to that guy's state. And the guy, lady at the Department of Economic.
Do the RFP. That's fine, we can do the RFP.
Well, I mean, we did it, it's gonna be in the paper, Brooks is gonna have to, what is it? Recess the meeting to give it enough time to run,
What's that?
to fill the requirement, and I did tell the guy it's kind of.
Yeah, that's what.
Grant there, they may or may not have to apply for that.
The Tuesday.
I still
He said you told me that.
No,
with the and or.
yeah, I read through it.
I mean, yeah, there is a RFP, it's a,
That's just
there is an
paperwork.
RFP, but it is RFP
But if we
that.
get a resolution awarded, because everyone got
I mean, I think.
the grants.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter.
They still should have the RFP.
I know, it wouldn't matter if we get a resolution to award it to whoever got the RFP with the grant.
I agree.
It would
What
not
we
matter.
engineered, we're actually doing the whole state.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Is it, I'm waiting for those shoes to drop. Where is this going back? If it's not, let's do it.
It's not gonna go bad. If we make a resolution, y'all listen, if we make a resolution to award the grant based upon the RFP and the grant being awarded, doesn't matter who it goes to, then we can do it Thursday night.
I think all that we ask for is, hey, if we're awarded it, the county makes a resolution committed to it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then like Aaron's saying,
We don't
because
get it.
all we would have to do is allocate the
Yeah.
1.174669.
Correct.
65, and that's, I don't think Commissioner Woody heard me, but that would still leave, we've not got our second drawdown of our ARP money.
Correct.
So once we receive right now, we have 593,907.92 in the bank. And when we receive the other 1,634,709.50, minus whatever is allocated, and it's the 1.174666975, I know that's a lot of numbers, we still have $1,054,001.77. Well, and you still got to look, because there's a couple $13,000, that's looking to come back in on the school side. So there's over $1 million. Even if you allocate 1.174.
Do we have a resolution to do that, or do we have a motion to do this from the committee?
Yep.
Motion by John, do we have a second?
Second motion.
There's a second. So the motion is to prepare a resolution to award the ARP money based upon.
1 million, not to exceed 1,174,000. Make that 1,175,000.
It needs to be with all of this too.
Now, the one question I have on this, before we do this, is if they only give you half of these things to do, are we still stuck with the 1,174,000?
It would be 10% of that, so if it's.
I know, but 10%, you only got half, it's gonna be more than that.
It would not exceed that amount. 10% not to exceed that amount.
That doesn't make me happy.
I know what you're thinking, and you're right, because the math, the actual math is 3.4.
Yeah.
And they're throwing in a portion.
Yeah,
So you're wondering if they don't get it all.
but to me, it's enticing because you get it all for this money, but if you get less, we still with that money if it's 10%.
Yes.
So if you're awarded 11 million out of the 35 million, we still have to do the 1.17.
Yes.
That's the part that.
That's what we've asked of every county that we're partnering with on this.
It is, you go back into all or nothing type thing.
The more the grant they get, the less the county, the better deal we get.
Right.
Our maximum is the 1.2.
Yeah, but I use that.
What he's saying is, if they only get half of it, the 1.1.
Well, 10% of what they get is less than 1.1, and it'll be less.
Right now, if they get the whole 34 million, it's 3.4%, our match.
3.4 million. Correct.
No, I'm talking about the 1,174,000 is 3.4%.
I think it will vary, if they anywhere from 3.4,
All the way
it
to
will
10.
vary all the way up, not to exceed 10%. There's no way to go over 10% according to what they're gonna pay. And it could be anything in between based on what they get, correct?
But what he's saying is, if they only get 15 million instead of 34 million, are we still responsible for the 1.1?
Instead of paying 1.5 million, you pay 1.1 million.
It's foolproof on the maximum side, and
It's
the
fully
minimum
approved
side,
and it's a gamble on us.
but the
On the
minimum
left
side can be decreased if they don't.
That's what you're asking, and if it can be decreased if they don't get.
The minimum can be decreased, and we're foolproof on the maximum side.
Well, if VEC, if y'all do theoretically just get half of it, does that mean there's gonna be less service area
Yes,
covered, or?
yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the more money, the more service area.
Alright, so, but if I understand Aaron correct and the way this is gonna work, and I think we kind of play with what Walter says. So if, for instance, if you got Ocoee and you got Conesaga, but you didn't get that little strip down through Old Port, but you can come in, but VEC would be the one that would provide the service on its own, outside of the county funds later on.
We would have to get it there some way
Correct.
like that, within that, yes. Just like we had the small strip
Correct.
that got it to Highway 30 before that was not granted before. We could not put that in the grant, or we'd have to pass through to get it to that location.
But in the event, cause I can see what Dewey's saying, so if there was an area that did not get from this, later on, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 years, whatever, but that all falls right back on the VEC, so it's not the endless possibility of no service to be there. That possibility is that it all falls back to VEC, because it comes back to you as the provider.
With the understanding that, right, the grant, it has to connect in some form or fashion, it has to make sense, and there has to be some continuity to
Can I ask you about this other section on the map?
Yes, absolutely. Which section?
You're hungry? How you gonna get across the lake?
Oh, they gonna bore under it.
We already have lines
Right,
across.
right, we got lines.
You already have fiber across the lake?
Yeah.
No, we have
Lines.
power across the lake.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to rent a boat and go across at times. I mean, also, it's,
Underwater drilling.
We've set many poles, I poured wood poles with pontoon boats to go across the lake, set them behind, palm trees, hung ropes in them.
How many people
You definitely would put it in the ground, you wouldn't put poles in the lake, would you?
It's going across the.
I think over
It's
there,
high.
there's 17.
Okay.
The ball's on to cross the lake, but
But that's part
but
of
then it gets rugged back there going to applications
I
where.
just wondered how you gonna get across the lake, cause it looks like it's part, across the widest part.
They got red balls on them.
I don't, you remember the barge that did the work on the, dam?
Yep.
It tore that line down and, over a few months ago, and then we ended up taking a steel pole. If you look across the lake, we got a 65-foot steel pole by hand over there.
Okay, so your question was, do we wanna make a 1.174,
yours was 1.175.
okay, 1.175, motion to award it to whoever does the RFP and gets the grant awarded to them?
You made the motion, he seconded it.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
Oh, yeah, we discussed.
Yeah, you started reading off the resolution, how you wanted to read, or the motion and how it was read. And it was a proposed resolution to award up to
1.75 million
1.175, okay. As far as you got.
to whomever receives the grant and the RFP.
The RFP, the approved RFP and receives the grant portion from the Economic Community Development Broadband Initiative Grant. Yeah.
TEDF-ARP.
T what?
The TEDF-ARP.
Got it.
Any other discussion? Roll call. John?
Yes.
Samantha? William? Yes. No, yes.
So Aaron, if it was, you have to connect it, so if it went through a unserved area because you didn't get grant money for it,
And it's a
it
very
would still be
generic.
there, you just wouldn't be covered running it to people's homes.
That's my understanding. That, you know, if it was
Yeah.
closed, I don't think. there's
Would a
not-
customer, if a customer wanted to foot that bill themselves, could they pay for it to come from the pole there?
Right.
People are trying to neglect. Yeah, that's true.
Right, yeah.
No,
Like the supervisor.
Get excited.
Hmm.